my info is on the screen here. Most important part, I am going to kind of give an abbreviated presentation here because of the time, but if everybody just gets my contact info, if you need anything, questions on anything that I've covered, you have a case that's stuck in underwriting, whatever it might be, make sure, give me a call. That number below is my internal Erin. Most of you are familiar with her, but those of you that aren't, make sure you're taking down that contact info. So with that, I was going to get into a little bit about Nationwide's strength and stability. I'll just touch on that briefly. So Nationwide is a Fortune 100 company, been in business for almost 100 years. And like Todd said, we're a mutual company. So what's important with that is at times like these, we're not worried about how much our stock prices just plummeted. So you might have seen in the news that Nationwide just returned $100 million of auto insurance premium. And that's something that we're able to do as a mutual company, is make decisions that are going to best suit our policyholders as opposed to stockholders. Puts us in a unique position. In addition to that, we want to make sure we're using this time as being good corporate citizens too. We just donated $5 million to COVID relief causes. I made the comment about the auto insurance premium renewals, and then for life insurance, there's a 60-day premium relief program that if you call the call center, they can go through the details on that. So, we think that we're in strong shape. Nationwide Financial hit its goal in the first quarter. We're looking okay for the rest of the year, and then really good into next year. So we're in good shape, and we also are trying to give back to those in need at a time like this. So just wanted to briefly touch on that. Now, before I get into some of the products, I'm going to do my obligatory underwriting spiel here. So the underwriting process now is more important than ever. Most people aren't wanting to do a paramedic exam if they can help it, right? Nobody wants a stranger coming into their house right now. So luckily, we've had this intelligent underwriting program for 5 years now. You all have heard me talk about the intelligent underwriting program a million times. Just some things that I want to point out. Since the pandemic started, we've increased the rate classes that we will accelerate your life insurance policy. So we used to only be able to waive the blood and urine if you got a preferred or preferred plus rate class. Now we are accelerating standard and standard plus as well. So if you aren't using intelligent underwriting, I want to make sure everybody is, so we can have that chance of accelerating the cases and not needing blood test or urine special. So you can see here on the screen that typically we were accelerating about 55% of the preferred or preferred plus applicants. So you see, not everybody is going to get accelerated. So if you have a client that does intelligent underwriting and does not get accelerated, they're going to get a call from a lab company trying to schedule the exam. If they're comfortable with doing that and can get it scheduled, by all means, they can go ahead and do that. Now, we realize that a lot of people are not comfortable with that. That's okay. We're going to leave the labs as a requirement. What the next thing that we would do is order doctor's records. And if the doctor records contain labs that are less than 24 months old, we can use those labs in order to try and make an offer. So first thing is use intelligent underwriting. Hopefully we get accelerated. Second is, if it doesn't get accelerated, they don't have to do the labs. We can skip that and go to doctor's records, and hopefully labs will be in there. So we can go all the way up to 2 million, and we can do standard rate class or better. That's smoker or non-smoker. So a stat, we've had intelligent underwriting for a long time. And the time frame differences that I've seen before have been negligible. If it gets accelerated, it's way faster. If it doesn't get accelerated, the time frames typically were around the same, right? Until April, I was just looking at the April numbers today. So since we've incorporated this new looser standard for intelligent underwriting. For April, the average time from receiving an application to getting an offer for every single case that we've received was 8.5 days. So that is a huge number. And the average day from when we received an application to when that policy delivered was only 14 days. And these are averages. So think about it. We obviously got some applications in April that haven't been put in force yet. So we need to have a lot that are getting offers in just a couple of days to make up for that. So, you know, I know a lot of you have used intelligent underwriting in the past to various degrees of success, but the most recent numbers that I've seen have shown a dramatic decrease in processing times versus what the intelligent underwriting numbers have looked like in the past. So something to keep in mind, try and use that intelligent underwriting. Hopefully we can get it accelerated. If not, you know, let the case manager know, let me know or Aaron, and we'll work with you and the client to make sure that we can get them covered without putting them in an uncomfortable situation. So before I move on to the product, does anybody have any questions on the underwriting process during the pandemic? All right. Well, if you think of any, just shout. Now I will get my software pulled up. So Todd is correct. I am going to discuss the differences between our accumulator and our protector. But first off, I want to talk about our survivorship IUL. So I think I just very briefly touched on it last time I was on the call, but I think Zach spent most of the time on Care Matters. So let me show you additional options. So we've had our survivorship indexed UL available at WFG for about a month now. We never had one before. We had a survivorship guaranteed UL, we had a survivorship variable UL, but we never had a survivorship IUL. So we just came up with that about a month ago. What survivorship policies are typically and historically used for are for maybe an extremely high net worth couple who might have estate tax issues, or for a couple that doesn't necessarily have a death benefit need for the husband or wife. They want to maximize the amount that they can leave to the next generation. So of course we can still do that, but on our survivorship policy, we can add our long-term care rider. So let me show you when that might be a good idea. So this is an actual case that I have, and it started off as a 67-year-old that wanted $500,000 of coverage. So the first thing that we looked at was our protector, which is typically what's going to give us the lowest cost insurance. So up here, I have the illustration software. We had a 67-year-old male, ran the illustration at standard. He wanted $500,000 of life insurance and long-term care. This was mainly for the long-term care. The life insurance wasn't as much of a need, and he wanted to pay it in 10 years. So for the protector, for $500,000 of life insurance and long-term care for this 67-year-old, it's going to run him, come down here, $28,532 a year. So it's not terrible, but it's not great. If we come down here to the illustration, we see here the client has contributed $285,000 over the course of the policy, and now they have access to $500,000. So for somebody that's 67, it's not terrible leverage, but it's not great leverage. So the way that this client knew the agent was through the client's son. So the client's son was already working with the agent, already has his own IUL, but was concerned about the long-term care costs for his dad. So with the survivorship policy, what's different than most in the industry is now we can put a grown child and their parent on a policy. So we've come down here and I've added as a second insured on the policy the 35-year-old son. So if now we have two insureds on the policy, if they want long-term care, they each only have access to half. So if we want to compare apples to apples and see how much $500,000 of coverage for the dad is going to cost, then we have to bump the total amount to $1 million. But that's the only thing that I'm changing. We just added the son as the insured, bumped the benefit to $1 million. Now they each have access to $500,000 of long-term care. So if we did it on an individual policy, that $500,000 was costing 28 grand a year. Now, if we put it on a survivorship policy, that number almost drops in half to $15,333 a year. So the reason we're able to reduce the premium so much is because we don't have to pay the full benefit until both of these insureds die. So what Nationwide is thinking is the worst thing is that we're on the hook for 500 grand in the next 50 years. You know, we don't think this guy's going to pass away till his early 80s. So because we don't have to pay that full benefit until they both pass away, and the one insured is so much younger, we are able to drastically reduce the premium. So I got a question here from Mike. Dad and son purchase $1 million policy. When dad claims long-term care benefit, how would the total cash value in the policy decrease? That's a great question, Mike. So the long-term care rider on this policy works like an individual policy. If you take $10,000 one month for long-term care, then the cash value and the death benefit are going to get reduced dollar for dollar. So let's say that the dad needs $200,000 of life insurance and then passes away. Or excuse me, needs $200,000 of long-term care and then passes away. Now the kid has $800,000 of life insurance, of which he can access $500,000 for long-term care. So by doing a survivorship policy, we're sacrificing the death benefit that the son would receive when the dad passed away, but we are drastically reducing the long-term care costs. So this is perfect in my scenario. So I am my mom's only child. My mom is single and lives in Columbus, Ohio. So if my mom passes away, I don't need a $500,000 death benefit, right? Because I'm not financially dependent on my mom. If I got that, it would be fantastic, but I don't need it. But if my mom needs long-term care, guess who's on the hook for that? Me, right? So this would be perfect for me in that I don't really care that I'm sacrificing the death benefit. I'm responsible for the long-term care costs, so let's reduce the price a lot. So that's a perfect scenario. So it looks really good with a grown child and their parent, but it also is going to look good if you just did a couple. So here we'll say, let's just say it's two 67-year-olds. Now they're each going to have $500,000 of long-term care. The total premium is $46,000. So that went up, obviously, but it's a lot better than $28,000 times 2, which is closer to what the premium would be if you had them in 2 individual policies. So I know we have lots of long-term care solutions, but this survivorship is a good option if they have grown children who are at least 35 years of age that they can put on the policy, which will drastically cut down the premium cost for their long-term care. So I know that was new and I went through fast. Any questions on the survivorship with long-term care before I get to the accumulator? Zhao asks, can stepchild be co-insured? So yes, but if you're going to do anything other than husband or wife or daughter and dad or whatever, make sure you're writing a good cover letter explaining why this is the case. The stepchild thing, it could be something as simple as, they remarried when this person was 2 years old, whatever, but just add a reason for why the relationship of the insureds isn't what the underwriter is looking at every single day. That's gonna help clear things up. What if the son does not want long-term care? Is it possible for the dad to get $1 million death benefit? No, great question. So they each only have access to half. So if the dad uses all of his $500,000, he can't dip into the son's. And likewise, if the son or if the dad doesn't use any of his long-term care, passes away suddenly, the son still only has access to $500,000 for long-term care. Odie asked $48,000. Yes, that is annual. All these I showed were annually. All of them can be run monthly. I just did annual because that is the so okay, good. Now let me pivot over to accumulator and protector here. So like the products are named, well here, let's go back. Let me change here. So IULs can build up cash value, guarantee a death benefit, have a long-term care benefit, but there's benefits and cons, right? The higher the death benefit is, the more expensive it is, so the less cash value can get built up or not. So all other things being equal, the protector is going to get you the highest death benefit for the dollar, and the accumulator is going to get you the highest cash value for the dollar. So I'm going to start with an accumulator. And I am going to show somebody that wants to generate the most cash value. So the reason somebody would want to generate the most cash value in a life insurance policy is for a number of reasons, but generally it's going to be because of the tax treatment. So I'm going to present this in a way that makes it easy for us to point out what the tax benefits are. So I'm going to show a 40-year-old client that's putting in $500 a month till they're 65. So this is a super common scenario that we see. You all probably see me run this illustration before. Now, at age 66, I'm going to see how much money this person can take out of the policy over the course of the next 20 years to supplement their retirement. And calculate. So again, putting in $500 a month till we're 65, then we retire and we're going to start taking money out of the policy. So you see here, this person has a $180,000 initial death benefit, but it's growing at the beginning. As I scroll down through the illustration, you see, if you look at the very right-hand side here, if this person passes away when they're 65, they get $433,000 of death. But the reason we did this was more for the cash. So what we're really interested in is this $31,000. Now we're able to take out tax-free in retirement. So I like focusing here. This just means your client has put in $150,000. Nationwide has given them $630,000 tax-free. So if it were me, I would say, that sounds great, sign me up. But this typically is when I'm going to get questions about the charges. So I want to bring it back to the tax savings. So if I put in 150, I take out 630, now the net is 484. So that's the gain of the policy. The gain is what you would have to pay taxes on if you have this in a taxable investment. So take what the gain is, multiply it by their tax bracket, let's say 30%. So 30% of the gain is $145,000. So if this person had a $485,000 gain in a taxable investment, they would owe $145,000 in taxes that they don't have to pay on a life insurance policy. But they were worried about the cost of insurance. And if this person lives to be 120 years old, then the accumulated cost of insurance throughout the life of the policy is $36,000. So you ask them, would you rather pay $145,000 to Uncle Sam in taxes that you're never going to see again, or would you rather pay $36,000 in cost of insurance, by the way, your family's getting in the form of a death benefit? So that's how I would present an accumulator. Somebody who is looking for the most possible cash value buildup in their policy. But let's say that this 40-year-old, they aren't thinking about retirement yet. They have some things they need to take care of first. Let's say this person has, a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old and a partner at home, and they're 5 years into their 30-year mortgage. They're more concerned about the life insurance coverage. So if that same exact client putting in the exact same amount of money, put it into a protector, now as opposed to $180,000 of death benefit, now we're able to get $866,000 of death benefit. So you can see for the same client paying the same amount of money, we could have $800,000 of death benefit, $30,000 of tax-free income stream per year in retirement, or anything in between. So maybe this person doesn't like the idea that they aren't able to take out any cash value of this policy, but they don't want to have a $180,000 death benefit. What we could do is go in and increase the death benefit on the accumulator, and it's just going to reduce the income stream. So what I've showed you here are kind of our two bookends. What's the minimum death benefit and maximum cash versus what is the maximum death benefit and minimum cash. So let me go back here to the accumulator and show you what I'm talking about. As opposed to having the smallest death benefit possible, let's just come in here and make the death benefit $300,000. Say, hey, I want cash. I can only afford $500 a month. And for right now, I need at least $300,000 of coverage. So what it's going to do is it's just going to reduce what the income stream is, which I will show you how much it reduces it when I get up here. So it was $31,000 a year. By bumping that up, now we've reduced it to $30,000. So it's worth getting in there and seeing, hey, we've reduced the income stream about $1,000 a year, but we were able to bump up the death benefit. So I showed the bookends. You can really do anything in between to specify to that client, depending whether or not more of their focus is on death benefit versus cash value. So with that, that is the fastest run through of 3 products ever. I got 5 minutes left. Anybody has any questions? I'm sure I did not explain all of that completely. So anybody has any questions, lay them on me.
Jimmy, it's Frank. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I noticed you only used the high cap multi-index on the accumulator, but not on the protector. Doesn't that play a role on the how much the premium is too?
Yeah, it is going to make a difference. I didn't even realize that I ran 2 different ones. So let's change the high cap. So changing it here, it is going to make a difference, but it's still going to be the same point. So now as opposed to an $866,000, it's 1.1 million. So, even more of a difference. But yeah, when I meant to run those 2 as the same. It looks even better when you show them both in the high cap. Frank, that's a good point. I can't show everybody this on the screen, but I want to share this. So our returns, so we have 7 different crediting strategies in our IULs, right? We have 4 that are based on the just the annual point to point on the S&P, and 3 that are based on the multi-index, so the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the S&P. So in April, all of the S&P crediting strategies did the 0% floor, so to be expected, right? But the multi-index, the core multi-index did 4.95%. The high cap multi-index did 4.95%. And the advanced multiplier multi-index did 7.42%. So how about the IUL in the middle of April this year, if you have the advanced multiplier multi-index strategy, you're getting almost an 8% rate of return on your IUL. I thought that was pretty incredible and a good story to tell, especially now with how the economy is. I was pretty happy to see those returns if you all weren't aware of that.
That's awesome. I just think that we really appreciate you, Jimmy. And does anyone have any more questions for Jimmy? Is our chance? We're not going to see him again until we ask him to come back again. Anyone else have any more questions?
Yeah, I had a question, Todd. I messaged you, Jimmy. Do you all still run the illustrations showing the income compared to the Roth IRA?
Yeah, we do. I actually had it on this accumulator. It's down here, the output design. I just didn't show you. IUL is the Roth IRA supplement. So we still have it, but you have to show income in order to show it. So most of the illustrations that I see don't have income on it. So if you didn't solve for the income, it wouldn't even let you put that report on.
I was looking at it earlier. It wouldn't. So it showed how much the income would pull out for the IUL, but it wasn't showing for the Roth. So does it not compare that anymore? To say, you know, like if we're pulling 20,000 a year from each, how, you know, because the Roth will run out sooner, right? So, you know, if it still does.
Okay. So no, what might be helpful for that. So I don't think we ever had that. This is the IUL, the Roth IRA supplement is right here. So
Okay.
This is what that is. What might be helpful though is the internal rate of return. So the internal rate of return is going to show you the taxable rate that you would need to achieve to get the tax-free rate on whatever, whether it be the death benefit or the cash value. So it's going to say, so the tax-free rate of return that you would need on the death benefit. This is a good report.
Can you show your screen?
That I don't see much of anymore. What? Can you see?
No, can you show your screen? I don't think it's.
Okay. Oh yeah, sorry, 1 second. Okay, so this is what's called the internal rate of return report. So you see here, if I paid $6,000 and I wanted $300,000 tax-free in 1 year, I would need a 5,000% return. So you see here, the internal rate of return on the surrender value is going to go up. The internal rate of return on the death benefit is going to go down, right? So we can look here and see, like if this person's age 70, they would have needed to have a 5.85% taxable return to achieve that same cash surrender.
Okay.
So I don't know if that.
Yeah, that's helpful. Okay, thank you.
Of course. Good question. Anybody else? Well, like I said at the beginning, most important part was my contact info. I will bring it up here as I wrap up. Todd, thanks again for having me. And everybody, I hope you stay safe, healthy, have a great rest of your night, and let me know if there is ever anything that I can do to help. Thanks, everyone.